Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Penn Vicarage on this, Tuesday morning. Welcome and lovely to see you. And as always, thank you so much for joining us for our Bible reflection for today, continuing our adventure through the remarkable book of Exodus. And friends, we're in chapter 18, which is all about a wonderful family reconciliation. So without further ado, Exodus chapter 18. Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. After Moses had sent away his wife Zipporah, his father-in-law Jethro took her back, along with her 2 sons. The name of the one was Gershom, for he said, I have been an alien in a foreign land, and the name of the other, Eliezer, for he said, the God of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came to the wilderness where Moses was encamped at the mountain of God, bringing Moses' sons and wife to him. He sent word to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons. Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed down and kissed him. Each asked after the other's welfare, and they went into the tent. Then Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardship that had beset him on the way, and how the Lord had delivered them. Jethro rejoiced for all the good that the Lord had done to Israel in delivering them from the Egyptians. Jethro said, Blessed be the Lord who has delivered you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, because he's delivered the people from the Egyptians, when they dealt arrogantly with them. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. The next day, Moses sat as judge for the people, while the people stood around him from morning till evening. When Moses' father-in-law saw all he was doing for the people, he said, Why is it that you are doing what is this that you're doing for the people? Why do you sit alone while all the people stand around you from morning till evening? Moses said to his father-in-law, Because the people came to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, they come to me, and I decide between one person and another, and I make known to them the statutes and instructions of God. Moses' father-in-law said to him, What you're doing is not good. You will surely weigh yourself out, both you and these people with you, for the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. Now listen to me. I will give you counsel, and God will be with you. You should represent the people before God, and you should bring their cases before God. Teach them the statutes and instructions, and make known to them the way they are to go, and the things that they are to do. And you should also look for able men among all the people, men who fear God, are trustworthy, and hate dishonest gain. Set such men over them as officers over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Let them sit as judges for the people at all times. Let them bring every important case to you, but decide every minor case themselves. So it will be easier for you, and they will bear the burden with you. If you do this, and God so commands you, then you'll be able to endure, and all his people will go to their homes in peace. Moses listened to his father-in-law and all that he had said. Moses chose able men from all Israel and appointed them as heads over the people, as officers over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. And they judged the people at all times. Hard cases they brought to Moses, but any minor case they decided themselves. Then Moses let his father-in-law depart, and he went off to his own country. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay. So there's kind of 2 parts to this reading this morning. First, there's the meeting, original meeting with Jethro, and there's the kind of wise advice of the wise father-in-law. Now, the meeting first. The first bit to say is to do with Moses' kind of domestic situation. It would appear here he has sent Zipporah off. Now, there's been quite a bit of speculation as to why he might have done this. Was Moses divorced, or what's kind of going on here? And theologians argue and debate about it. My personal opinion is that he wasn't divorced. I think what had happened, as we found out in chapter 17, Moses was in the situation the 3rd time the people had complained. It had been dangerous, of course, leaving Egypt and so on. And I think, as it said yesterday, he was concerned at one point he was going to get stoned to death by the people. And I think in yesterday's reading in chapter 17, Moses' faith was starting to wane a bit. So my personal opinion is that he sent Zipporah and the 2 sons off for safety reasons. Look, you might always imagine him saying, look, it's dangerous here, go back live with your dad for a while until things calm down a bit. The reason I say that is because the evidence of yesterday's chapter and the fact that things are so friendly between Moses and Jethro. I think that's my reading of it. Now, people disagree, and feel free to read the chapter yourself and decide what you think. But I think what Jethro did, things are sort of too communal, if you like, between Moses and Jethro, between son-in-law and father-in-law. There's clearly good relations here. So I think they weren't divorced. But have a speculate. I know have a think yourself and see what you think. So there's that. Then there's what happened. So that's Moses. I mean, I think Moses' faith was starting to wane slightly, and I think that's why he sent them off. And so I think that's what's going on in Moses. And I actually think the meeting with Jethro, actually telling the story of what happened, will have encouraged Moses in his faith as well. So my opinion is Moses sent Zipporah and the boys off because it was dangerous. I think he was struggling in his faith a bit, and I think this encounter with Jethro has actually and being able to tell the story again has actually increased and reassured Moses' faith again. But that's my opinion. You can think what you like. So that's Moses. The next bit to say is about what's going on in Jethro. Now, Jethro was a priest of Midian at the beginning of the reign, so he was a religious leader of another faith, you might say. What's interesting here is he meets Moses, and he's obviously heard what's been going on. He's heard and he hears the story again of how God had delivered them from Egypt and how God had been good and he'd saved them from often danger, often woe, and actually that God had saved them. And hearing the story, what becomes quite here is that, to use modern language, Jethro gets converted, if you like. Jethro is having seen what God has done. Jethro becomes utterly convinced, and Jethro turns to the true faith and starts to believe and trust in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So what happens here is that Jethro sees the truth of God, sees the acts of God, and is so utterly convinced that he is, to call him one, he becomes converted as well. So this meeting with Jethro and Moses, Moses, whose faith I believe was slightly on the wane, his faith is encouraged again. Telling the story has encouraged Moses, and Jethro, hearing the story again, having seen what God has done, then becomes convinced about faith in God as well. So you've got this wonderful meeting, this kind of faith-enhancing meeting between Moses having his faith restored and Jethro receiving the truth faith, if you like, for the first time. So Jethro, this wise old man, spends time with Moses, and he spends some time with him, and he sees what Moses does, and that Moses is doing all this judging, that these distributing God's laws, if you like, and he basically says, look, you're burnt out here. That may have been another reason why he sent Zipporah away. Because maybe apart from being dangerous, he may just have felt so overwhelmed by the sheer volume of work which he had to do that that's maybe another reason why he sent Zipporah off, which is maybe another reason why Jethro actually wanted to kind of give some wise advice here. And he says, look, carry on judging, but share the burden out. The lower cases, the lesser cases, the minor, the small claims court, you might say. Feel free to sort of share that out. Give people authority over 50s, hundreds, and thousands, and so on. So you haven't got to do it all yourself. What's noticeable, I think, quite important, is that at no point does he say you shouldn't be doing any judging. He doesn't say, look, you should take a more administrative role or go and do something different or whatever it may be. He's quite clear Moses is to carry on judging, but Moses is to do the difficult cases, and he's to delegate the minor cases to other people to ease the workload. And again, I think there's something very important here, that as Christians, we are not on our own. One of the greatest gifts God's given to us is each other. And that there have been times in the past when I've been busy or something like that, and other people have taken task off. And actually, I can remember when I had a big operation 6 years ago, and I couldn't do nursing home visits. So I delegated it to some wonderful people in the congregation. And I found, to my horror, they were getting bigger and better congregations than I used to get. And I think there was a lesson in that. So they still do it to this day because they do it much better than I did. And the importance of actually having the ability to trust people and to allow God to work through other people as well. That we're not in this on our own. We are still baptized Christians. We still have a ministry to run, but actually we're as much as we can to share the ministry out for the encouragement of everybody and to make sure that we manage to work, so to speak, within what are proper boundaries. So you have this wise old bird, Jethro comes in. He sees as an outsider what Moses is doing. And he can see, look, this is burning you out. So just share some of the burden out a bit, which is what Moses does. So the 2 bits of this reading, you have the encounter between Jethro and Moses. Jethro finding faith in God for the first time, in the true God for the first time. And Moses having his faith reassured by being able to tell the stories again of what God has done. And second, you have this wise old bird, if you like, Jethro coming in, seeing what Moses does. So look, share the burden out so that it becomes more doable. Keep the difficult cases for yourself. Carry on judging, carry on doing your role, but share the burden out as well with other people. And that's what he does. Friends, I hope that makes sense. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed that today. Have a lovely day. God bless you. And do share the message.